Instagram Live. What's up? Good to be on here. Going to be getting my buddy John on here in just a minute. Let you all join us. Kim is here, of course. Dave Ewing, how's it going? Good to see you. Breakfast Blend, Aaron Wheelo, Sean Kennedy. Whoa, we got a turnout here. Waiting for my buddy John to hop on here. So glad that so many of you are jumping on and joining this conversation with us tonight. And hoping that it'll be a time of hope and benefit and just focused on the gospel and so many different things and how we can stay focused in a time like this. So what's up? Saying hello to everyone, just waiting for John to jump on, and then we are going to jump into things. We're going to get rolling. We're going to get moving. And so let me see if there's John. All right, I'm going to get John live with us in just a second. I'm excited for this. Let's get John on here. John, just request to be live or I can get you in the live. Let me see here. No, that's not it. What's up, Kelly Ormsby? What's up? We got a great crew here. What's up, Daryl Ann? How's it going? Let me get John. No, not you. It says... John, it says you're unable to join live right now. I'm trying to add you on, trying to get you on here, and it's not letting me add you. It says you're unable to join. Hey, everyone, thanks for jumping on. Just give me a second. We're going to get John on here, have a good conversation, but it's telling me that I can't let you join. James, I am being good. Thank you. What's up, Mom? Good to see you. Thank you all for being here, for being on this live with us. Getting my buddy John on here in just a minute, trying to figure out some things. Let me see here. For some reason, John, it's not letting you join. Sorry, folks. It says, oh, you can't hear me? What's up? Can you guys hear me now? Can everyone hear me okay? Trying to get this to work, trying to get John on to go live with. John, it says you're unable to join right now. Are you, let me see. Let me type this in. What's up, Jake? Trying to get my buddy John on here. Good to see everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for being here. We're just dealing with a couple things right now, trying to figure out what is going wrong. Oh, here we go. John Davidson, I'm adding you. Let's see if it works. I'm waiting for John. He's going to be on here in just a minute. John, what's up?
You know what? I tried to do it on my Charlotte laptop. It didn't work.
This wasn't working.
No.
This wasn't working. What's up? John, I love the Saints hat. You ready for your Saints this year?
Thanks, man. Nah, we'll see.
We'll see.
I was disappointed last year.
Yeah.
We got robbed, though.
Yeah, they did. You did. You never know what could happen, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you, man. I'm so glad that we can do this and have this conversation. We have a great crew, dude. We have 18 people on here right now with us. So you got a big crew, man. You got a big crew of supporters. How does it feel?
Good, man. Yeah. It's you know what? It's pressure on me now. I wish it was like 2 people. It would have been that would have been better.
A little less pressure. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, just so everyone knows as you're watching, let people know that we're doing this. We're hoping that this can be a conversation that brings hope and healing and so many other things. We got a little question box down there. If you want to drop a question in the question box, drop it there. We'll do some question and answers later, and we'd love to answer any questions you may have. But John, I've known you for a couple of years now. I met you on the basketball court. You got a killer 3, much better than mine. And it's
some days.
What?
Some days.
No.
Every day. You get on fire.
And you and I, we actually started just meeting up bi-weekly, talking about the Bible, talking about life. And now you've been a part of helping us with News Story and what we're doing with that. And you have a great wife, Charlotte, great daughters, Serenity, Harmony, Trinity, amazing, amazing family. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's a privilege to know you. So before we jump into all this, could you just share with everyone a little bit about who you are, what you're all about, your family, fun facts, whatever that is, just so people can get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I was watching this thing on, I think it was like Fear Factor, and like they were like going around asking everybody, you know, about themselves, and the guy started off as he was like, "I'm a fun guy." I guess I'm a fun guy. No, I mean, I'm a family man. Like, you know, uh, I was, you know, I was born in Buffalo and raised in New Orleans, and then, you know, Katrina hit, and we moved back to Buffalo. So my like most of my adult life has been in Buffalo. Most of my childhood was like in New Orleans. So I have a wife, you know, beautiful wife, three daughters, you know, three in a row, and and yeah, they're a handful. I just put Trinity down. And I let the girl stay like spend the night at my mom's, so she, you know, I can have some quiet. But yeah, no, I mean, I've been a believer since I was a kid. You know, I've actually believed. You know, a lot of people say, you know, they were like church kids, and you know, they just went to church. I mean, I actually been a believer since I was young, and that just guides my life. I love the Lord.
Love
That's
it.
it. You know.
I love it. That's so good. So, you know, tonight we want to talk about some things, some difficult things potentially, but I think this is a good chance for us to learn because, you know, in my profession, you know, searching the scriptures, sometimes as a pastor, I'll let everybody in on something. Sometimes you're like looking for a topic or something to talk about, and you like go searching through the scriptures of like, do the scriptures ever talk about this particular topic?
Yeah.
But the one we're talking about tonight, you don't have to search very far. Like
Yeah.
Genesis 1 says that all men were created in God's image. John
Right.
17, I have right here, Jesus prayed that they may all be one, even as I and the Father are one, that we are to be one, that we are created in God's image. And we see all throughout the scriptures, like, you know, this idea that we are to care for one another, to love one another. And there's just, in this whole idea of following God and loving people the way God loves them and seeing people as Jesus sees them, there's no room for racism. There's just no room for
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Like, we are to be a people of love and marked by love and seeing people as made in the image of God. And this is one of the best reasons as why, like, following Jesus is worth it and it makes sense because everybody has value in Christ's kingdom. Like, it just makes
Right.
sense. And so we got to get this right. And as believers, we got to lead the way in this. And so I just want to ask you some questions that can
Yeah.
hopefully educate all of us, including me. Like, I got my pen and I got
Yeah.
my notepad
All
because
right.
I'm going to be taking some notes. And
Not,
I would encourage all of my, specifically my white brothers and sisters who are listening tonight, like, take some notes. We're going to learn tonight. We're going to hear some things that might make us uncomfortable, but we're also going to be encouraged, hopefully, and we're going to grow together. Are you ready?
yeah, I'm ready.
You're ready.
now,
Let's
now
do
you
it.
put the pressure on now. So
No, no, no. It's
yeah.
gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Uh, so John, let's just start out point blank. Like, what's it like, based off your experience? Maybe even talking with your wife Charlotte and family members, and even talking to your daughters, even today in 2020, but even the past. What's the experience like? What's the perspective like growing up as an African American in the United States of America? Like, what are some things that maybe people overlook or people don't see or people just
Yeah.
assume? Like, what's that experience like?
So yeah. So like that's a book to answer that. You know, in short, it's I mean, I've always been black. I've never not been black, but it's just when you're on the outside, and you know, and you look at a race, and you don't know, you know, what it's like to walk in the shoes. It looks, you know, it looks different. It just you know, if you're not connected with the you know, people, you would think that, you know, their life is just like your life, but there's just a lot that, as African American, you know, there's things that I just understand even from childhood that I just couldn't do. I didn't have the same I wouldn't say rights, just the same privileges, as white Americans, would. So like, it comes down to stuff like, going in a store. I was always raised, my mom, my stepdad always raised me, never look suspicious. Keep your hands out of your pockets. Keep take your hood off. And it's still with me today because I mean, like Tuesday, I was helping an uncle move, and I was driving through a neighborhood. It was it was mostly white neighborhood, and people were out jogging and walking their dogs, and I had a do rag on, and like I have hair, but I never wear it out of the house. But for some reason, it was just early in the morning, and I was driving, and then I caught myself, snatching my do rag off, just because I didn't want to be seen as, you know, uh, as any kind of threat. It's just like so and that's just ingrained. It wasn't like a second thought. It's just I quickly did it, and like that type of mentality is like what like an everyday type of thing. You always have to be conscious of how you appear, um, you know, in public. Do I seem like I'm a threat? Do I look like like is it possible that someone can see me as a threat, and and then I can be like attacked or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean that's yeah that I mean that's like just an example, but it's a lot. It's just different.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. That's heavy. Just a reminder to everyone, we are taking questions if you want to take them. But one of the things that reminded me of John was I actually forgot this story until you just mentioned that. And
Yeah,
when I was in seventh grade, I was at a basketball game with some of my friends. And one of my friends, Ray, his name was Ray, he was African American. And I remember he took a white T-shirt and he made a do-rag out of it. And he
yeah,
told me I should do the same thing. I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I was called to the principal's office the next day. And he said,
really,
Scott, I was ashamed to see you were doing things like putting a do-rag on your head. That was the only thing I got in trouble for. And
yeah,
you're kind of like, why is that wrong? Like, what's your problem?
yeah,
Like, it's not like we were going and starting fights or
right,
like
right,
we
right,
were doing things to disrupt the game. It was almost like there's this image that you're portraying by, making a do-rag out of your t-shirt,
right,
and it's a problem. And like, why is that a problem just because it doesn't look, the way you think it should look? And so that just brought that to
exactly.
my mind. And yeah, so that's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and even wearing a hood, you just it that's what hoods are made for. Your head gets cold, you want to put on a hood. But when
Yep.
you, I mean, when you think you're looked at a certain way, it's just and that's something simple, right? You would think you can just pop on the hood, walk in any neighborhood that you want, but it's not the case.
Right. So true. It's so true. That's tough, man. And I guess I want to say too, from my position, like one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is I'm by no means an expert on this. Like I'm trying to get better every day. I'm trying to learn
Yeah,
every day. But I even look back on, and I imagine some people watching, like I look back in my days, even in high school and middle school, and like some jokes that I used to make that I thought were appropriate, and they're not appropriate. Like it's wrong. And
right,
I think that there's a level of we as white Americans, we need to do a better job of recognizing that that joke might not be appropriate. That that assumption you have is actually wrong. And that, like
right.
whatever it is, like we gotta pay attention to that. Like we gotta have some humility in that. And so what I love about the conversation that we're having right now is you and I, we're not even like celebrities with these huge platforms. We
No,
are
right,
everyday people trying to learn from one another. You work at Citibank. I'm trying to start a church. We're just everyday people.
exactly.
And I think this is where this starts. Like, this is where we can continue and begin to have healing in our society as everyday people having these kind of conversations. And so,
Yeah, yeah. That I mean, that has to happen. It's communication. We have
yeah,
to understand each other. We have to, and if we don't connect, if we don't communicate, then we'll always be um, divided. It'll be the people over there, and that's a problem for them, over there. And when it's that distant, it's easy to let injustice happen because that you have no connection to it. So
Yep. Amen. That's so true. That's so true. That's so good. So, John, follow-up question. Would you be willing to share? Because I think sometimes people do something that is prejudiced or racist, and they might not necessarily even realize they're doing what they're doing. And so, like, could you give some examples of when you first experienced racism and prejudice and things like that, and just some practical examples of what that looks like so we can continue to educate people?
yeah, yeah. So I was raised in New Orleans, deep South. My parents we lived on both sides of the river, so it was like we lived in the Seventh Ward, which is like the hard neighborhood, and then my parents they moved us to the West Bank, and it was a better neighborhood, mostly white. We were like one of the like the only black families. It was a trailer park, but it wasn't like a regular trailer park. It was like a community. It was like real nice. But so I had all kind of friends growing up, black friends and white friends and everything, and Vietnamese friends. So I'm thankful for that I had that kind of upbringing, because that's the world we live in. It actually is a mixed world, and we are still minority. So you have to be able to learn how to live around everybody, and live as that's just the reality. African Americans, we are a minority in America. So I'm glad for like my upbringing. But I met a lot of good I had a lot of good white friends, and then I did meet some race just racist families. And like so like the first time was like I was playing ball with a guy, and we were cool. I thought we were cool. uh and but his younger sister, after we played, me and my brother was out there, my younger brother, and we were like just hanging out. You're tired after you're playing ball. You just hanging out talking, and she comes up and she says, you guys are ends, right? Just out of the blue. And I was like, I always been real like witty. I always had like a comeback, but when it happened like that first time, it was like a shock, and I was like, I had no response. It was just and then it was in front of my brother, so I felt even more you know I just felt bad because I didn't show him. I didn't stand up. I didn't say anything back. Nothing. It was so big of a shock. We just left. We went home. Um, it wasn't the last time we saw them. We still like hung out and everything. Um, and that was a good thing for me, because I got to learn to live around just hate. Open hate. It was and you learn to live with it. You get tough skin, and you deal with it. And I'm not, I'm actually, when it sucked when when I was a kid, but it wasn't. I mean, it prepared me for like reality. That's just the truth, that I would have to deal with it, one someday anyway. So, but anyway, fast forward, we moved to Buffalo, and I back in my mind, I'm thinking, as an adult, and we moved to the north. I never really have to deal with that kind of racism again, because it's the north, right? Like you don't deal with it at all. Uh, so the first time I dealt with it here, or I saw it here, was that we went, me and Charlotte, we was like, we were new parents. We had just had Serenity. We lived in like a part of town that was mostly white, and we wanted to check out like a restaurant. So we kept hearing about it. We wanted to check it out. So we go in, and it's like that on the movie, they zoom, and everybody's staring at us, and there's no person of color. Everybody's staring. So, and it was like the atmosphere was, it was super, like, it was just, you're not welcome. That's
Yeah.
it wasn't said. No one, nobody made like a comment. Nobody came up to me and said, you're the N word or anything like that. We felt it. We planned on eating in, but like after we walked in, we made our order, and then we went back. And like, I was raised in New Orleans, like I said. Charlotte was raised in South Carolina, so we from the South. and we looked at each other and was like, that's crazy. I never experienced something like, something like that. Because even if people are like openly, open hate is, it's cool. You know who to stay away from. But when it's like that, it was just weird. It was more like more overt.
Yep.
That's what they call it. And that's what it is. It's covert versus overt racism. So, she didn't go back in. I had to go in and pick up the food, and it was weird. And I was like, that, it was crazy because I didn't think like in this day and age we would have to deal with like, something like that. It felt like we walked into like a 60s, we were back in the 50s or whatever, and it was like whites only. That's what it felt like we were walking into, like a whites only restaurant. And I was like, that's crazy. I never thought I would have to like experience, especially like in the north,
Yep.
But yeah. I mean, yeah, that
Yeah.
was that was one time or another time.
Yep. I think that's one of the lies of like the North culture. Like, because I grew up in Virginia, and like
Yeah,
you just kind of hear down there like, oh, it's not the same up north. It's different things. You think that and assume that, but even like a city like Buffalo, we actually can be very segregated in our cultural pockets, as I've learned
yeah,
over the past, you know, however many years I've lived up here now. How long has it been? Almost 8 years. I can't believe that. But like, we have our groups and our pockets, which in some ways you're like, oh, we have history here, which is, whatever. But like, it's
yeah.
actually can be more segregated at times. And I think
Exactly.
we don't even realize that. We don't acknowledge that. But dude, that stuff's not easy. And I can't imagine it's easy having to experience that and having 3 daughters and
Yeah,
thinking about them and wanting to raise them and have a hopeful future for them and all of that stuff. And like having to experience something like that. I can't put into words what that could, because first of all, I don't even have kids. And second of all,
yeah.
I don't have to be concerned about that the same way you have to be concerned about that.
Right. Yeah, and that was another shock too. Like you said, it was. I was shocked how segregated like Buffalo is. Like you can pretty much print out a map and draw on a map which races live where, and New Orleans is not the. I'm not saying I love the city, and I'm not saying it's like the best. But we at least it was my opinion. I think it is more integrated than it is here. So yeah,
Yeah.
having kids and just so Charlotte is like, she adventurous, so she want to get out and do everything. So we take them everywhere, and that's on purpose. I want them to be around different people. I want them to experience different cultures. I want them to get that experience. But just knowing that we can walk into a certain part of town, and they won't see anybody that looks like them, and I don't want them to ever have to feel that they're not welcome
Right.
because of the color of their skin.
Yep. And that's honestly, I think that's what so many people just also don't understand right now. Have I had people not like me before? Most definitely. But
Yeah,
it's usually because of like something I've done, like it's my personality. Maybe I'm too loud or it's off-putting or something.
yeah,
I've never had to deal with I don't like you just because of the way you were born, Like
right, yeah,
and that's what I think we got to get people to see right now. Is there's a group of people that still exists in our culture who will look at someone like you and say, because of the color of your skin, I have something against you. And we got to move past that. Like we got to say no more of that. It's not acceptable anymore.
right. Like that, yeah, that has to stop. It's just ignorance, and really is doing harm. It's doing more harm like to yourself, because you miss out on some of the like best people, and
Right.
you never know when you're gonna have to one day you might need like someone. You never know what that's why I tell the girls all the time, treat people, honor everybody, you respect everybody, because you never know when family won't be around. You never know when anybody will be around, and it might be somebody you mistreated that you need. And then how would you feel in those moments? So
Yep.
we got to get people to think about that. um the and just the not knowing, so you don't always have to be I think a lot of people don't realize they would say, well, I didn't say anything racist. I've never said anything, but it's how you treat people, like, and how you make them feel. If you make a person feel ostracized, or you never have to open your mouth. You can. It's just how inviting or uninviting you are. You can how you can make a person. We understand, like,
Yep.
atmosphere, and we understand how a room can be, how an atmosphere can be set, like in a room, or and how it can be conducive to a group, or
Yep.
not conducive.
So true. We got some questions coming in from some of our listeners. Would you mind answering a couple of them if I pull them up here?
Yeah. I'm trying to look at it. This is my first time on Instagram Live, so I'm terrible.
I'm going to do this one here from Kelly. She
Okay.
said, what are your thoughts on church leaders and political leaders' response in this time? What is helpful and what is hurtful?
My thoughts on church leaders. So really, I haven't
And political leaders as
and
well.
political leaders. Yeah. So, I have watched, Bishop Jakes and what was the pastor's name? They had a conversation.
Carl Lentz.
Okay. Yeah. And I love that. It was a message of, like, of unity. I think that's what we have to do as a body, as the body of Christ. We have to, unify everybody. The division that I hear from, different, politicians, that's going to set us back. And then it's going to put people up at arms. And now people are thinking, oh, this is how they feel about us. Well, we have to fight them all. Let's get down to, violence. It's all, and that's so, it's crazy that it can lead to something. I guess we really have to watch, how we say things, and what we say, because we don't want to. It's already high tension. The more division you bring, you can, that can have, like, huge effects, and then more lives can be lost, and then it's counterintuitive, and then we're going backwards.
Amen. That's good. That's
I
good.
don't know if that answered the
No,
question.
that's good. Listen, and anything that you say on your end is helpful for us and helpful for
Okay.
me. I'm already taking notes, like, about the vision, and even like that interview with TD Jakes and Carl Lentz. I'd highly recommend. I watched
No,
it.
yeah,
It's so good. Like,
it was a good one. Yeah,
it's worth the hour and a half. We're in quarantine. You can do it.
it is an hour and a half though.
Yep. So Raquel asked, let me put this one up. What is the most important thing that white parents can be doing or teaching their children to live a life of justice? And I can't see the rest of the question for some reason. Let me see if I can pull it up here. To live a life of justice and equality, especially when in the way they treat black people and black children.
Yeah, most important is, I'm always going to say, like, love, and that probably sounds corny, right? Like, but it's always going to come down to love. What we teach them, I found out is they don't retain it as much. Kids are kids. They their mind is, it can be in one place in 1 second, and then another one in another. But what we show them, I think, is more important. So, I'm just going to use us as an example. Me and you, Scott. Like, my girls, we've been to your house, a few times, a bunch of times, and they see us interacting. They see us. We've had dinner. We spend time together. No matter what I tell them, no matter what I teach them, they're gonna they might remember it. They on one. I would hope they would remember, everything I'm pouring into them. But one thing I think they'll never forget, or they won't forget, is the example. What I show them. I'm showing them that we can have a relation. We have relationships with people who don't look like us. We treat them the same that we treat people who do look like us. So I think that's most important. What we show them, and then also we teach them, just we love everybody. We treat everybody the same. They're no different than us. You treat people how you want to be treated. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I might I might put a spin on that. I might have a quote from John Davidson.
Right,
They might forget what you teach them, but they'll never forget the example that you've shown them.
right, yeah.
I might have to keep hashtag John Davidson.
There you go.
It's good.
You can keep it. I might use it.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. I got a few quotes here from you, dude. You're gonna be all over Instagram here. Just you wait. Just you wait. John Davidson quotes, man. Let me see here. As a white person, is there any way we should be showing support or solidarity with African Americans that we know? Like, how can we be doing that more? This is from Cassidy.
Okay. I would, you know what, like I thought about this. Like I actually thought about it, and I wanted to like put myself in, like in, you know, another setup, you know, another mindset, you know, just put myself in other people's shoes, because I know that can cause that question, like what can I be doing, and that can cause like anxiety, and people can be, yeah, people can be like fearful of because they probably say, you know, I want to show solidarity. I want to show that I'm, you know, I'm with you. I want to support you, but I'm not a protester or I'm not a fighter. You know, which you shouldn't be fighting anyway. Like I'm not with all the, you know, the loot, and the rioting. But they you know, they feel like I can't do it the way I see people doing it, protesting, and because that's not me. And that, I think it's perfect. God can use you pretty much, you know, wherever you are, whatever your avenue is. So I think people can be, you know, supportive in their own avenues. So in their own ways, it might not, your way might not look like my way, and it shouldn't. Like you might have a different road to get there. You might you know, your avenue is, it might be, you know, you write letters to, I don't know, district attorneys, or vote. You know, you show up at the polls, or you check that uncle who make you know, racist comments all the time, or who, you know is hateful towards, you know, black people. It it looks different for everybody, but I think uh, what's most important is if you show that you care, if you care, for one, that's just number one. If you care, and if you speak up, and if you just take action in however you know you do it, whether it is, like I said, if whether you show up at the polls and you vote locally, um, teaching your kids, you know, you might be a mother, and you're not going to be out there with a, you know, with a sign or whatever, but you can teach your kids to, you know, when they go to daycare, you know, you tell them, you know, we're friends, or you can invite that person over that, you know, your kid made friends with, like a black kid. I'm not saying go out of your way to do something like weird, but you know, you invite them over, or whatever your avenue is. I think, um, you know, don't try to go. I don't think it has to be, you know, out of your way. I don't think it has to be. You don't have to do anything like uh, super, you know, crazy. You don't have to go out and be the leading the march. It's everyday life, and I think the hardest thing, the most important thing to do, and I didn't mean to take this long.
No, no, go for it. This is your time.
um, so the most important thing to do, I think, it always is always going to start with like self. So the first thing is, you know, I check myself. You know, is there anything in me? Is there anything in my mind or in my heart? Maybe I learned it growing up. Maybe wherever I picked it up. Maybe someone did something to my, you know, family member. Is there anything in me that's causing me to be hateful or racist against another race? And I think that's where it starts. Everything else is you know, your everyday life. It's just keeping it in mind, though. Is we're gonna stand up for injustice. You know. I hope that answers.
No, I love that. I love what you're saying. The idea of don't do nothing, but
Right.
also don't do something that, and I correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but don't do something that you might not be able to do right now, but do something that you can do right now. So
Yeah.
like, what
Yeah.
is there someone you can teach? Is there someone you can correct? Is there someone, is maybe it's a person of power you can write a letter to, but maybe it's a family member you can write a letter to. Maybe it's a person of color in your life that you need to write a letter to of asking for apology. Maybe it's someone of color that you need to give a phone call to of support, or whatever it is. Like you said, you might be a mom with kids. You might not be able to go stand with the protesters, but there is
Yeah.
something you can do right now. Like there is something you can do. And I
And
think that that's such a helpful idea.
right, and it's within your reach. You don't have to go. You don't have to reach outside of yourself. You don't have to be something that you're not. You don't have to do something that you're not accustomed to doing. Just incorporate it into your everyday life.
Yep.
And start with self. Check. I always say, like, it's check yourself first. It all because a lot of times we can't. How would that uncle react if they said if you jump out and check them and they say, well, you were doing it too. You were joking about it too. You just said this joke. You just said this joke last week. It starts with self. So you can't get the block out of your brother's eye if you don't get the splinter out of your own. That's what Jesus said.
So good. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
if Jesus said it, that's
If
the way to
Jesus said
do it, right?
it must work, right?
That's the way to do it. I
Yeah.
think what I like about what you're saying too, and I think what's going to strike a chord with people is the idea of you need to do something, and what you need to do, it may make you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but you don't want to. It's okay to be uncomfortable, but it's not okay to be fake. Like you want to be
Exactly.
genuine. Like we all know the Michael Scotts of the world, who like
Yeah.
who like think that they're relating, but they're actually being borderline or even beyond borderline offensive. Like they're being
Yeah.
offensive. Like we all, I don't know if you watch The Office, but that's the reference I'm putting. Like
Yeah. No.
we all
Yeah.
know the
I caught a
Michael
few episodes.
Scotts, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Be authentic. Like just you can be authentic with it's not going to be it will be different. Because things have gone on, like people say, it's systematic. It's and it's gone on for years and years and years. So some people are accustomed to like a certain way of life. This will be different, and but just incorporate this into your life. I won't stand for injustice. First in me, and secondly, in my home. Anyone who is under me or in my reach, within my reach, that means immediate family. Anybody in my nucleus, that's not gonna be around me. I won't stand for that, and people should know it. It'll show. People will say, they would know that they can't say that joke around you. They know that they can't, talk that kind of hateful talk, around you. You'll see it. You'll see results.
That's good. That's good. I love that. One of the things, I know we kind of hit on this already, and it's so great. You've hit on a lot of the questions that I had, because I just knew you were going to take care of things, man. You're just a smart dude. And we have more questions coming in. Remember, if you have a question,
Cool.
place them in the question box. We'll be on here for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, John, and I know, like I said, we pressed into this, but like, you are a family man. You have 3 daughters. Okay, so what are some changes that you would like to see right now? And then as you think of your daughter's future, what kind of future do you hope will be created for them in our culture and in our society? Like, what kind of things do you dream of for the present, and what are you also dreaming for the future when you think about that?
Yeah. So that, like, my girls, like, my biggest concern, like, I'm just so, like, I don't want them, I don't want to see their face on somebody's concrete, with somebody's neck, somebody's knee in their neck. I have to teach them. I have to cover them. I have to pray for them constantly. That when they're not in my, within my reach, or if they're not around me, I have to pray that I have to trust that God is gonna, He's gonna do what He said He'll do, and He'll protect them. But just the way it is now, I don't know. I don't know. You never know. You never know where the hate is. It's not like when it's overt, you can't see it. And you just gotta keep the kids covered. But I mean, I'm a believer, so I'm always hopeful. I always have hope. So what I want for them is that when they go out into the world, whatever situation they're in, whatever atmosphere they're in, I want them to be able to be representative, of actually be representative of Christ. That sounds like that sounds like the church, the corny church answer. But I want them to show respect first. Um, Treat people how they how they want to be treated, and then the biggest thing is I want them to be able to expect that back. That's the biggest part for me. I don't want to be pouring into my kids and then send them out in the world and they have this set of values, and I don't want them to be, I don't want it to be naive, them to be naive. I don't want them to think that, oh, dad lied to me,
Right.
what dad was teaching me wasn't, it wasn't right. I want to be able to pour into them, and they go out in the world and treat people how they're supposed to be treated, and then get treated the same way back, no matter where they are, no matter what group they're around. If they're the only black person in the room, I want them to be comfortable. That's so for the future. That's what I want. I want them to be able to know, have peace of mind, and I can have peace of mind that they can go out into the world, and I don't have to be worried about uh, something like this happening. Because imagine that phone call. That's a terrible phone call to get, and I have three girls. I'm not saying it's different for it is. I mean, it definitely is different for women and men, but like for any parent to get that call from about their child, is like that's a nightmare. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's good. So, this is one of the reasons why we're even just having this conversation, because we want to be a part of the solution, and we want to be able to create a place where you don't have to have that concern.
right,
Let's create that space, and let's create a space that if there are people out there like that, that we're no longer going to have bystanders who stand by and say nothing when they see it happening, but
exactly,
they
yeah,
speak up and say something. Like,
right,
it's not okay to watch it happen. Like, you got to stand up and say something. So, the
exactly,
thing is, there's always going to be evil in the world. And so
yeah,
even if those evil people do exist, what does it look like? Like, if you're watching this right now, like, what does it look like for you to be that voice for the voiceless that Proverbs 31:8 and 9 talks about, to be the voice of the oppressed? Like, some people get upset about some of this stuff, but at the end of the day, like, this is what the church has always been about.
right,
Like, Acts 6 and 7, when the widows weren't being fed, what did the early church do? They figured out a way to take care of the widows. And you didn't hear
exactly.
somebody saying, oh, all lives matter, why do you only care about the widows? That wasn't
That's
happening. There
yeah,
was an issue, and the church addressed it.
right,
And so, like, I think in a time like this, we have this perpetual issue, this systematic issue, the systematic problem, and we have to address it. We have to be a voice for the voiceless. We have to bring hope. And so we gotta stay focused on this. And, like, if you gotta say something, you gotta speak up, and we gotta be okay to be bold.
right. And we mourn with the mourning, we cry with the crying, we grieve with the grieving. That's what we're supposed to do, and we
Right.
should want. That's what we should want to do.
Right.
Um, Yeah, and like with the speaking up, I get it. Like being a civilian and seeing cops, these are officers of the law, watching them do that. These are armed men. I get it. Like because I don't know if I would put myself in, and you have to be, you got to be wise about it. You can't be foolish. You can't jump on a cop, an armed cop, and the whole point is that they're killing people of color. You don't want to give them another reason. You don't want to be the next person. I get that. I think though, there's a way to do things. I think you can communicate that. I think you can say and I think and really I'll get to that though. But I think there's a way to communicate. There's a way to say, look, sir, he's, or to another officer, sir, he's a little excessive. Can you take over? Or do you think it'd be better that you take over? So because I'm fearful that this man might die or something. But I think cops have to, other police officers, good police officers have to stand up. It, I think they
Oh no, just a second, folks. I lost John. I'm gonna try to get him back. I'm gonna try to get him back. In the middle of a good sentence too. Just hold on tight with us, folks. We're having some technical difficulties. Here we go. Here we go. Come on, John. There he is. Awesome. I don't know what happened
I don't know
there,
what. Yeah, that was weird.
but it's all good. These things
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
So you were mid-sentence. You were saying about good police officers.
yeah. They have the bigger responsibility in those cases. They're the ones that have to keep each other in check. You're aware of the signs before anybody else. Hate like that. We talked about it. Hate like that doesn't just like pop up. You can't feel a man. You know, feel the life go out of him. He's living on 1 minute, he's moving, and you feel the life go out of him, and your hands are in your pocket. You like that kind of hate you doesn't just like pop up. He's done something before. Some a partner could have noticed something before. Like, officers have to speak up. I think I don't know what their process is. I just maybe like internal affairs, or whatever, something anonymous, an anonymous tip to it. I don't know. Whatever it is, I think good officers have to be brave, to step up. And I made a post like that. I think I think it's true. It's good officers have to be the ones to not just have the bravery for the criminals out in the streets. They have to have the same bravery and stand up to injustice, for the same criminals, wearing the same badge that they wear.
Yep, that's good. That's good. One
And
of the
that takes pressure off of a civilian who wants to do something, who wants to get involved, and they want to, they probably really genuinely want to, jump in, but they're fearful for their life. You put them in a bad position to for a person to say, well, would I really like risk my life? Like, do I have to, like, this is wrong, and I'm totally against it, but if I jump on this man, he might kill me. So.
right. So true. Yeah, that's so true. And I'm sure you do as well. Like, I know good police officers. I'm sure
Yeah,
you know them as well. Like, one of my pastor friends down in Olean, he's a part-time cop. He's been a cop for 30 years. He did a great message. If you guys follow Believers Chapel, he called out cops this past week who are
yeah,
not cops in his message. And he's like, I
yeah.
can speak from experience. And so they're good cops. And I think that this is a broader issue. Like, there are people with power who are police officers that are bad, who are racist, and that we need to deal with this. But
Right,
there are good people too, and we're just continuing to see, like, what does it look like for good people to speak up and to say something and to do
right.
something. And so I love what you said there too. Like, good cops speaking up takes the pressure off civilians. Like, that's such an insightful thing.
Yeah, and something I thought about, like, I was thinking about it earlier. It was when I was like, I don't remember like a bunch from like college, but like one thing I remember from like accounting 101, they always said that that preventative costs was always going to be less than repercussion costs. So basically, what it costs to prevent something is going to be it's going to cost you less to prevent something than it is to like suffer the repercussions, because now a life is lost, right? And that's like, you don't get that back. That's the highest cost. He's not coming back. But what did that look like 6 months from 6 months ago, or last year,
That's so good.
when yeah, when you saw him rough up a drunk guy, or whatever, when you heard him make that comment on the ride back to the station, and it could have been something simple like just reporting him to your chief. Anything. What did that would have been maybe you would have lost a friend, maybe you would have lost a partner, or you wouldn't have you'd have been kicked out of the, I don't know, fantasy football football league or whatever, or kicked off the bowling team. You don't hang out with the guy no more. But fast forward to the situation and what happened to George Floyd. If you could have prevented that life with something simple as a report, well, and the cost is I lose a friend. I mean, I think that's a lot less than losing like someone's life. That makes sense to me.
That's so good. That's so good. If you guys are watching that right now, if you were watching this, like, remember that this is so good. If you're saying to yourself, how can I speak up? How can I make a difference? Remember this from probably John Davidson's business school class.
Yeah,
Preventative cost is always less than the repercussion cost.
exactly.
Preventative cost is always less than the repercussion cost. Like
Exactly.
that's such wisdom. That's so good
And,
right there.
and that's
Preventative cost is always less than repercussion cost.
that's accounting 101.
Accounting 101, but it works in life as well.
But it works in real life.
Yes, it does. That's so good. Let me see. I'm going to look at a couple more questions here from the people. We got another one from Raquel here. I like this. How do you think white churches can bring in more diversity to maybe their congregation or their board? John, are you frozen? You froze on me. John? Oh, man. We're working to get John back, folks. Internet. Waiting for him.
Sorry.
Here we go. Awesome. You're back.
I don't know what's going on.
It's all good. These things happen. So one of the things that I put up from Raquel is, how do you think white churches can bring in more diversity to their congregation or board? And I think that that's a good question. I'd like to speak to that as well, but I'd also like you to speak to it, because I think we could also talk about how do we just make more diverse churches in general, because it was one of the things Dr. Martin Luther King said was the most segregated hour in America is on Sunday morning. So how do we work on this?
And it's true. It's so true. And back in around Christmas time, we went to visit Charlotte's family in South Carolina, and on the left side of the street was a black church, and on the right side of the street was a white church. It can be said that about the congregation, and I thought that was crazy that we can't worship together. So if we can't worship, if we're not unified as a body, how can we expect to do it on the job or at home? I don't know. I just thought that was crazy. But man, that's a good question. I don't know if I'll let you go first. I'll let you go and then I'll think about it.
Well, first we got a book recommendation too from my buddy Mike Tabor, Rediscipling the White Church: From Cheap Diversity to True Solidarity.
Cool.
That's good.
I'm gonna check it out.
We're gonna check it out. Yeah. I think the first thing I would say with that question, and I've gotten this from some other voices, is first of all, and I think it goes back to some of the stuff that you were saying earlier, don't fake it either. I think it could be easy for a predominantly white church that's in a predominantly white community to fake some things. I do think there's some wisdom in your church should reflect the community that you live in. There's some wisdom in that, but you also shouldn't do that to a fault either, where it's there's barriers and there's walls. If your church is in a community that's 15% African American and your congregation is 15% African American, there's some ways in which you're reflecting the community that you're in.
Exactly.
You can't force it that way. But in saying that, I think that there's a little bit more, there's some more layers to it as well. And I'm just going to be honest. I think sometimes it's about what kind of music are you playing? Or look at your board. Does everybody on your board look exactly the same? Because if that's the case, then and I'm not even saying color. I'm even saying how they dress. Does everybody look? No. Because then you're leading your church in a direction of, this is the story that we want our church to tell. We want because here's the thing. Here's what people naturally do when people see leadership. When people see someone in leadership, they then aspire towards that.
Yeah.
And so if that's all that they see in leadership, that's what they're going to aspire towards. And so it's also thinking through hey, we got to look at what are we doing here? Because chances are there are people who could maybe be in the leadership team at your church, however that's structured, because all churches are structured differently, that God wants them to have more influence in your space, but you just overlooked them or haven't seen it, or what does that look like? And, I gave song choice as an example, but I got that as an example from an African-American pastor I was listening to on how he wanted to create a more diverse church because his was just all African-American.
Yeah.
And so
It
he
goes
said,
both ways. Yeah.
yep. And so what he said was, I started playing worship songs that I hate. He said, I started playing worship songs. He said, this was his words, not mine. He said, some of you white people listen to worship songs that have the longest ballads in the world, and I just want to sing the chorus. And he goes,
Yeah.
there are songs that I, his advice was, he said, if you as a lead pastor want to have a diverse church, when you leave on a Sunday morning, oh, I'm in the middle of a sentence and I'm losing John again. He said, and I'll finish this sentence when I get back to when we get John back here. Let me get him back, and then I'll complete my sentence here. Let's do this. Sorry about that.
No, I'm not pressing anything. I don't know. That's weird.
So one of the things this pastor said was, he said, if you want to have a diverse church as a lead pastor, you have to leave every Sunday morning and not like at least 50% of what just happened. Like, and he doesn't mean that in regards to, doctrine or theology. He just means in regards to like the style of the service.
I get it. Yeah.
And you just got to think about who's on your stage. Like if it's all one look on your stage for everything, that's what people are going to be attracted to. But like even the music, like, and the style of all that stuff, like what does that look like? Are you doing things that even as a leader say, this makes me a little uncomfortable, but I know that it connects with another group of people? And you know what? Since Jesus, John 17:21, going back to where we started, since Jesus prayed for us to be one, how do we do that? Like, how do we make that happen? And it means we got to be a little uncomfortable sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And yeah. So your answer like inspires my answer. I agree. Like I totally agree. You have to attract people. You have to do things to attract other people. I think what like the only part I'll say is that I think tradition is big. It adds a big tradition is real big in church, and it's that mindset that we've always done things this way, and it's worked for me in the past. So let's keep doing that. And if you're playing the same, like you said, playing the same music, doing the same things that you've always done, you're gonna get the results that you've always gotten. You're gonna attract the crowd that you've always gotten because you're not doing anything different. Why should you expect any different results? That's just common sense. But that goes into I think confidence, just confidence in being able to sing other songs or preach in a different way, or maybe not. We talked about this. Maybe not preach. Sometimes maybe you have to teach. Maybe more people are attracted to teaching. Maybe maybe they don't get the message the same way as maybe you just can't reach people all. You can't reach the diverse people in one way. Maybe you got to be like Paul. Maybe you got to speak Roman and what 300 other like languages that maybe you have to diversify yourself, and be confident in be so confident in not even yourself, but be confident in Christ that he made you unique, and you can change, you can diversify yourself, you can change it up and attract different people. I think that plays a role too.
That's so good. That's so good. All right, let me do one more question from the question box and one more of my own questions. Oh, they're only giving us another minute and a half. We might. John, do you have any final thoughts in our last minute and a half here?
We can do it again. We'll probably get we didn't touch on we can. There's more to touch on. We can do it again. Like final thoughts though. No, I think everybody. It's just we need to be unified. I don't think it was any like mistake. I think it was a strategy of the enemy to have everything happen right before Pentecost, when we're supposed to be remembering unity and communication. Tongues of fire. People are speaking in languages that they never learned, so they're communicating with each other and understanding each other. I think that was on purpose. I think as like a body of believers, we have to be keen. We have to be spiritually aware. of the strategies of the enemy, because we do have that insight. We do know that it's not just black and white. We know that it's evil in high places, and we got a battle in the spiritual realm too. I don't want to get too like, you know, like churchy or whatever. But there is more to it. I think so as a body of believers, we have to keep that in mind, that there's a strategy behind all of this. There's a strategy behind hate. We have to like pay attention to that and lead the way. Just that's what we need. I think we got to go back to